right, everybody, welcome aboard here to the Sports Talk Nation. Michael Cohen here with you for part 2 of our spring training discussion about New York baseball. We started off talking about the New York Mets and whether the offseason was a success or a failure for them as they are now in the midst of spring training. Now, as I said at the end of that video, I said, I'm going to get to you, Yankee fans, and we are about to do exactly that. We're going to talk about the Yankees a little bit here. The offseason they just had as they are now in spring training. They are well underway in spring training, about a week in, and they got exhibition games starting on Sunday. So, as far as this being a success or failure, as far as offseason is concerned for the Yankees, certainly it was a quieter offseason than we're used to from the Bronx Bombers. Usually they're almost a guarantee to make a big splash, spend millions upon millions of dollars on free agents. That did not happen this year. Yankees much more conservative in spending this year. Their biggest signing, of course, maybe their most important signing, is bringing back DJ LeMahieu, who was easily their most consistent hitter in their lineup over the last couple of years, back in the fold on a 6-year deal, really a team-friendly deal, $90 million over 6 years to play second base for the Yankees. This was a player who was certainly one of the best players in baseball the last 2 years, was the team MVP a couple of years ago, and was certainly in MVP consideration around the league the last couple of years. 2 years of the Yankees, hit .336, 36 home runs, 129 RBIs, 268 hits. The guy did it all. He was a great player for the Yankees the last couple of years, and it was a no-brainer to bring him back. The question is, did the Yankees do enough other than that to improve this ball club? Because you look at them overall, it's really the same team they run back with here, or from the last couple of years here in 2021. Of course, that leads to the question of pressure points, I think. If anything is going to be discussed about the Yankees moving forward to 2021, it's really more about pressure points, because over the last couple of years, this is a team that has been very close but hasn't gotten over the hump in the playoffs, whether it be losing to the Rays last year in the ALDS, whether it be in years past where they've lost to the Astros in the playoffs. And now this year, you have to sit there and look at the Yankees. If you're a Yankee fan or someone who covers the Yankees, the expectation is that this team has to try to find a way to get over the hump, get through the playoffs, and get to a World Series, where a team more than likely, like the Dodgers, would be waiting for them in that situation. So, did the Yankees do enough to have a chance to get there? Now, you look at this team as far as some of the other things that they did in the offseason. I think pitching staff stands out the most for me. Out are Masahiro Tanaka, J. Happ, James Paxton. Those guys are now out. In are a lot of experiments in a lot of ways, and a team that's hoping that a lot of guys can perform after years of being injured and can help get this team over the top and solidify this rotation behind an ace like Garrett Cole. Corey Kluber, bringing him in after the last couple of years of numerous arm injuries with both the Indians and the Texas Rangers. Kluber's been a pitcher who, before the last couple of years, was certainly one of the more dominant right-handers in baseball. He was always a Cy Young candidate when he was in Cleveland. Just what was it? You have to go way back to 2014 was 18-9 with a 2.44 ERA. Just a couple years ago, 2017 again was 18-4, had an ERA under around 2.25, and even in 2018, his last really great year, won 20 games that year. He hasn't been that same pitcher since, but the Yankees are hoping after the last couple of years of dealing with injuries, he is ready to get back to being that same pitcher, or close to being that same pitcher that he once was. Now, some people point to a video that ended up online this afternoon of him in an at-bat against Aaron Judge, getting him to fly out. A lot of people noted that the changeup looked very good for Kluber. The Yankees are hoping that Kluber can turn it around. We'll see if he can. Another guy that's going to be very interesting, Jameson Taillon, who the Yankees picked up in a trade with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Still, when you look at Taillon, a very young pitcher, still only 29 years old, a guy with a lot of potential. He was a first-round pick a few years ago by the Pittsburgh Pirates, but really hasn't had an opportunity to become that top pick, become an ace of his staff, if you say, okay? Of course, when you're pitching for the Pirates, you're not going to have that chance anyway. So, a pitcher who also coming off of Tommy John surgery in 2019, didn't pitch at all, for that matter, last year in the 60-game season. He is now in a situation where the Yankees are taking a gamble on him as well, and they're hoping that he can come close to being the guy who showed some promise 3 years ago in 2018 when he won 14 games with the Pittsburgh Pirates. You kind of see where I'm going here with this, with the Yankees. Behind Jordan Montgomery, you have Devi Garcia, who showed a lot of flashes last year with the Yankees. We all know that the controversy that he was involved in, not his fault, obviously, with Aaron Boone, when Boone decided to take him out after just one inning in the playoffs last year. That was crazy. But a young pitcher who has a lot of heat, brings a lot of heat, for that matter. Luis Severino is still a ways away, and we probably won't see Severino until maybe June, July, kind of like Noah Syndergaard with the Mets, still on his way back from injury, so he will be a piece later on in the year. In short, this is a rotation that's all going to be about Garrett Cole. We all know that. He's the ace of this team. He is making the most money of anybody on this roster, even more than Giancarlo Stanton for that matter, $36 million a year. Cole coming off of a year with the Yankees where he was 7-3 in the short season of only 2.84 ERA. Now 2 years removed from being a 20-game winner and a Cy Young candidate with Houston. He is the bell cow of this rotation, and he has got to find a way to continue to excel. If the Yankees are going to go anywhere, Garrett Cole has to take him there out of that starting rotation. The bullpen. Okay, the Yankees did lose Jonathan Holder in the offseason, but they did add Darren O'Day, Justin Wilson, former Met. There's a couple of good additions of veteran pieces in that bullpen. Really, the bullpen, to me, from when I look at it, doesn't look too different than it was just a year ago. Yes, losing Holder, losing Adam Ottavino, who had a down year last year, for that matter, before the Yankees dumped him on Boston, will certainly be a bit of a difference. But as I said, getting those two veteran pitchers in O'Day and Wilson should settle things down just a little bit. You know what you're going to get out of the back end of the bullpen with Chapman and Britton. You know you're going to get solid innings out of them during the regular season. Again, the question is the playoffs. We saw also Chapman implode in the ALDS against Tampa Bay last year. You look at the offense. You look at the everyday lineup. You're going to see a lot of the same faces. And the question is going to be for the Yankees, can they stay healthy? Because over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of these star players get injured, miss time, and somehow this team has found ways to win in spite of all of that the last couple of years. So can the Yankees have a year where they have Aaron Judge fully healthy? Can they get a year where they have Giancarlo Stanton, who's going to be the DH now, fully healthy? Can Gary Sanchez, the catcher, who came under fire for a very bad year last year, hit only 147 during the regular season and ended up getting benched in the playoffs for Kyle Higashioka. Can he finally turn it around? He says he's ready to do so. We shall see. The Yankees need him to play well and hit much better than he did just a year ago. And they need him in a big way this year in 2020. Otherwise, you could see a lot more of Higashioka starting. And look, he played well in the playoffs as well. So he's a guy that in Higashioka that could end up being a starter for somebody else at some point down the line. But the Yankees are really hoping that Gary Sanchez can stave off Higashioka and reclaim the trust that this franchise once had in him behind the plate. We all know what you're going to get out of LeMahieu, as I just mentioned. Gleyber Torres, very solid bat. Not a necessarily great glove, but a solid bat there. Gio Urshela, fantastic glove at third base. And then the outfield, you're going to see a lot more Clint Frazier. Thankfully, he has certainly earned the right to be a starter there in the outfield. Aaron Hicks as well in center field. So we'll see if he can stay healthy for a full season as well, for that matter, in Aaron Hicks. But that is going to be the question for the Yankees, at least in my mind, is going to be the health of this everyday lineup, and how consistently and how well this team can pitch. We know they're talented. We know they got a lot of great players, and this is a team that should find a way to win this division, if not get to the playoffs this year. The AL East is going to be very interesting. We know that the Toronto Blue Jays are improved. Obviously, adding George Springer to the Blue Jays mix makes them a contender in a lot of ways. The Rays are going to be interesting. They did lose a couple of guys. Losing Blake Snell and Charlie Morton in that rotation could bring them down a peg or two. And I'm very interested to see how that team responds in Tampa Bay after losing the World Series in the fashion they did, and how they respond to Kevin Cash moving forward. So the division's certainly going to be in flux. The Red Sox, I don't know what you're going to get out of them this year. I mean, they're kind of a team that's kind of in a transition year. But what you're seeing here out of the AL East is that this is a division where the Yankees should, you would think, based on the talent level they have, should find a way to win if they can, as I said, maintain their health and be consistent. But we'll see how that works. And of course, the big key is going to be getting to the playoffs, and that's why I say this year is more about pressure points than anything else for the Yankees. Pressure points, as I just mentioned, on Cole to be the guy in the rotation. Pressure points on Sanchez to be the Gary Sanchez we thought he was early in his career. Pressure points on even guys like Judge and Stanton to stay healthy, but also pressure points on Aaron Boone to get the job done and get this team over the hump. He's done an okay job. He's done a pretty good job the last couple of years. I know there are a lot of Yankee fans who don't like a lot of the decisions he makes, and certainly I could certainly understand that, especially in the postseason. But Aaron Boone is in his position now where if he can find a way to get this team to World Series, if not win a World Series, would certainly have more staying power for that matter. If he does not, if the Yankees should fail in the postseason, be interested to see whether the hot seat gets really hot underneath Aaron Boone, for that matter, in 2021. So if I had to give this a grade on the offseason, I would say probably a C plus B minus for the Yankees as far as the offseason is concerned. They didn't make a lot of additions, but they didn't make a lot of big changes either. They are basically running it back with the same team they had, with a couple of exceptions here and there. The biggest exceptions, of course, being in the rotation, and we'll see if it's going to pay off for them in the regular season, but especially in October. So, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening. Remember to like and subscribe right here to the Sports Talk Nation. And also, remember to follow us online at OpenMicNJ on Twitter and also Facebook.com/OpenMicProgram. We'll talk to you next time, everybody.